It is in no one's interest, not Israel's, not the region's, not the world's, for this conflict to spread beyond Gaza.
We do not seek another war. We do not seek to escalate.
Is the U.S. on the brink of war right now in the Middle East?
We are not at war in the Middle East.
The U.S. says it does not want to escalate things in the Middle East, but after a drone attack in Jordan killed 3 U.S. service members, the Biden administration seems to be trying to figure out a response that won't start another war. I'm Erin McLaughlin in for Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. President Biden has vowed to retaliate following yesterday's drone attack, but his administration still seems to be working through the intelligence on how to do so, especially considering they are the first known American military deaths from enemy fire since the start of the Israel-Hamas war. Today, we learned the identities of the 3 U.S. soldiers who were killed. Their names are Sergeant William Rivers, Specialist Kennedy Sanders, and Specialist Breonna Moffett. Dozens of others injured. The Defense Department says the drone hit a base along the border of Syria and Jordan called Tower 22. There's new NBC reporting tonight that this is the 3rd drone attack on Tower 22 in the last 6 months. According to 2 Pentagon officials, the first 2 attempts were shot down. So why was this one successful? The incident is still under investigation, but it appears that the hostile drone was mistaken for an American surveillance drone returning to base. And that is why air defense systems did not immediately engage. President Biden is blaming an Iranian-backed militia group. Iran is denying any involvement. Secretary of State Antony Blinken renewed President Biden's vow to respond, saying the U.S. would do so at a time and place of his choosing. Earlier today, on his first day back at the Pentagon after his surgery for prostate cancer, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin had this to say.
The President and I will not tolerate attack on U.S. forces, and we will take all necessary actions to defend the U.S. and our troops.
NBC's Courtney Cubie has more from the Pentagon. Hey, Courtney.
Today, President Biden met with his top national security officials in the Situation Room. They were discussing a deadly attack on Sunday that left 3 U.S. soldiers dead and at least 40 other U.S. service members wounded. The attack occurred at Tower 22. It's a remote outpost in northeast Jordan. An explosive-filled drone was able to breach the base's air defense systems and land and explode right in an area where U.S. troops were sleeping. That is why there was such a high casualty count. And tonight, U.S. officials are trying to figure out how that drone was able to escape or evade the base air defense systems. A couple of the theories that they're looking at is that it may have been coming in at the same time a U.S. drone was coming in for a landing, confusing the base air defense systems. They're also examining whether it's possible the drone was coming in at such a low altitude that that may have played into its ability to go around the air defense systems and target that base without any warning to the U.S. military there. Now, most viewers have probably never heard of Tower 22. Only about 350 U.S. Army and U.S. Air Force are there, and it really serves as a logistics or support hub for the garrison that's just on the other side of the border in Syria called Atanf. But some of those U.S. troops who are there are also working with the Jordanian military in an advise and assist mission. Now, today and tonight, U.S. officials are vowing to respond. President Biden saying that the U.S. shall respond over the weekend. But today we heard from both the Pentagon and the White House also promising a response, but not talking about exactly what that would look like, only saying, Aaron, that they will keep all their options on the table. Aaron.
Courtney Cubie, thank you. Well, it's still unclear how and when the Biden administration will respond to this deadly drone attack. But this afternoon, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the retaliation could be multi-leveled and sustained over time.
We do not seek conflict with Iran. We do not seek war with Iran. But we have and we will continue to defend our personnel and to take every action necessary to do that, including responding very vigorously to the attack that just took place.
And whatever path the Biden administration chooses, it's likely to throw that region into even more chaos. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons has more.
Hey there, well, more tension in a region that was already tense enough after these attacks on bases up by the border of Jordan and Syria and Iraq, and the killing of these three service members, the first time that US military have been killed by hostile fire since the war in this region, since the war in Gaza began back in October. So it is clearly an escalation, and the concern for many governments in this region is that there will be a further escalation, with President Biden vowing that there will be a response. A number of the governments in the region, including US allies, warning of instability, while at the same time condemning what those governments are calling a terrorist attack. Now, it wasn't just those three service members who were killed, more than 30 injured, a number of them evacuated for higher medical care. So a very, very serious incident for the US military, and the kind of thing that has really concerned many watching the region. The strikes carried out by a Iran-backed group, Iran saying that it does not give orders to its proxies like this kind of group, but of course, now there are calls in the US for retribution, if you like, for a tough strike back against Iran, even inside Iran. We shall see what the Biden administration chooses to do, saying today it does not want war with Iran.
Keir Simmons, thank you for that report. Israel alleges that 12 members of the United Nations Refugee Agency participated in Hamas's October 7th deadly attack. The UN humanitarian agency that helps Palestinian refugees employs around 13,000 people in Gaza. NBC News cannot verify Israel's allegations, but our own Andrea Mitchell digs further into during a sit-down interview with Qatar's Prime Minister.
Tonight, stunning allegations that at least 12 UN employees helped carry out the October 7th Hamas terror attacks. 2 Israeli intelligence dossiers reviewed by NBC News accusing some staff of the UN Relief and Works Agency, including an elementary school teacher and a social worker, of kidnapping hostages and procuring weapons for Hamas. One dossier alleging 10% of the agency's staff belong to Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and linking half of its 12,000 employees to the terror groups. NBC News has not confirmed the allegations. The UN fired the accused employees, and the U.S. and others stopped sending money to the agency pending an investigation. Today, I asked Qatar's Prime Minister about Israel's allegations.
It cannot be punished because of the act of some employees as long as they are complying with their...
Including kidnapping a woman, according to the allegation?
We don't know about the allegation yet until the investigation come out yet.
Meanwhile, we've learned details about a proposed new hostage deal spy chiefs from the U.S., Egypt, Qatar, and Israel agreed to this weekend. It calls for a halt in fighting for 60 days, the release of all civilian hostages, women first, in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. After a month, Hamas would release women IDF soldiers, then male IDF soldiers, as Israel releases the rest of the Palestinian prisoners, thousands of them.
Yesterday was good progress made to get things back in shape and to at least to lay a foundation. We don't know and we cannot predict what Hamas' response will be.
Also, they are parents of American hostages, including 19-year-old Itay Khan.
The hostages cannot be collateral damage. They need to come out. Then you could do whatever you want.
Secretary of State Blinken called it a strong and compelling proposal. Prime Minister Netanyahu's spokesman says nothing's agreed to. Bottom line, Hamas now holds all the cards.
Andrea Mitchell, thank you. Well, tonight, National Guard members saved the life of a little girl at the southern border. Our NBC team witnessed it happening. The young girl appearing to be conscious as first responders carry her into an ambulance. She's just one of hundreds of migrants making the dangerous journey across the Rio Grande River. December saw the highest number of arrests at southern border crossings than ever before, nearly 250,000, which is up 13% from December of the previous year. The federal government and Texas are at odds over how to manage the influx of migrants. And today, 26 state attorneys from across the United States sent a letter to President Biden supporting Texas Governor Greg Abbott's controversial border protection methods, including the use of razor wire. Meanwhile, lawmakers on the Hill appear to be one step closer to a border deal. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy says the bipartisan legislation could come out any day now, but some Republicans may kill the deal as soon as it hits the House floor. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now. So, Julia, this new border deal is getting a lot of attention, especially from former President Trump. He was on Truth Social today calling it unnecessary and a ploy to make Republicans look bad. And his words seem to be catching the attention of House Republicans, right?
Yeah, that's right. And in fact, in this case, someone who is not in office may be the biggest influencer in Washington, because we know that these negotiators on the Senate are very close to a deal. In fact, we expect text by midweek. We've got a lot of details about what they're expected to bring forward, but it might not pass in the House of Representatives or even get brought up for a vote, because basically what the former president is saying now is that it's not a good enough deal, really without even weighing in on any of the specifics at all about what exactly it is he opposes. And this is a very conservative deal, a very big win for people who are very hawkish about the border. We're talking about details that we're reporting tonight at NBC, which would allow the president, actually force the president and DHS to shut down the border if the numbers got above 8,500 in a single day or above 5,000 over a 7-day average, and that they could stay that way for months because the border would not reopen until those numbers came down significantly to just 75% of the trigger point. That means you could be looking at months of a completely shut down border. This is something we wouldn't have even been talking about when Biden was on the campaign trail. It's surprising that we're even talking about it when Biden's in office, but it's something that he's endorsed and said that an authority he would use immediately if this is passed. But because of Trump saying no to this, it really could throw cold water on the whole thing. And it has a lot of people saying that, look, Trump is just out here because he wants the border to remain chaotic, because he knows it's a winning issue for him and he wants it to be on the ballot and bring people to the polls in November.
And at the same time, the federal government in Texas are at odds with border protection. Where do things stand since the Supreme Court ruling last week that allowed federal agents to take down those razor wires?
Well, you're right. The Supreme Court said absolutely federal agents from CBP should be allowed to cut down the razor wire that Texas put up. But the key place where they've put up that razor that has led to deaths, like the one that we almost saw today, fortunately that young girl was saved, as you said, but it has led to deaths in the past, is this razor wire in Shelby Park. That's a small part of Eagle Pass, Texas, but really became the epicenter of those record numbers that you mentioned in December. They saw thousands sometimes in a single day coming in just to that area. And Texas took over that area. The Department of Homeland Security wrote in a letter to Texas that because of the Supreme Court ruling, they should then allow access to Shelby Park, because Border Patrol can't remove wire in a place they're not allowed to get to. But the Texas Department of the Military, which used its authority to take over this park, they said that they would not budge. Right now, though, the Justice Department has not gotten involved. We've not seen the Biden administration actually take Texas to court over this, which is actually quite shocking, considering that it seems like a legal pathway that they have to challenge the fact that a state is standing in the way of them executing on federal authority. But so far, no lawsuit. They've just sent them letters and asked them to cease and desist or clarify where they're going to be blocking Border Patrol and where they aren't. But so far, Texas not budging.
And let's talk a bit more about that little girl that was rescued on the Rio Grande today. What more do we know about her, and how common is that sort of thing?
Well, as you said, we believe that she was taken to be cared for, and that hopefully we think that her life was saved. This is really common. I've stood right there as migrants come across from Mexico through waters that may look calm in parts, but are in fact quite deep and quite swift. And they've seen migrants drown there in the past. Just last month, this month in January, there was a mother and 2 young children who died coming across that very place. It used to be a place we would see migrants come across knowing that Border Patrol stood there with the scissors to cut the razor wire. But if they're not there and Texas refuses to cut this wire, they're left in these waters hoping someone will rescue them or take them in. So they're really putting their lives in jeopardy. Texas says it's a reality that these migrants need to face, that they're putting their lives in danger, but the Border Patrol wants access to be able to come in and do these rescues more frequently than Texas would do. So really we're seeing this battle play out on a large way that has extreme humanitarian consequences.
Julia Ainsley, thank you for that reporting. Well, don't go anywhere. We're just getting started. Up next, a drama-filled day in court. A judge ruled on whether or not convicted murderer Alec Murdaugh could stand a new trial. Plus, Dunkin is facing a new lawsuit over non-dairy milk. We'll explain. And a woman risked her life to get her dog back after he was snatched from her. That's all just ahead, so stay tuned.
I picked myself up and I started to whimper, feeling defeated as I watched this car drive off into the distance.
Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. A former IRS contractor who leaked President Trump's tax records was sentenced to 5 years in prison today. Charles Littlejohn pleaded guilty back in October for leaking thousands of records. They included ones belonging to former president and billionaires like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. Littlejohn will also have to pay a $5,000 fine. House Republicans introduced articles of impeachment against DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas today. They say it's over his handling of the historic surge of migrants coming through the U.S. southern border. The House Homeland Security Committee is preparing to consider the articles as soon as tomorrow. DHS called it unconstitutional. A teen murder suspect in Philadelphia who escaped while en route to a hospital has been captured. Investigators found Shane Pryor trying to board a city bus. They were able to pull the bus over and arrest Pryor again. He originally escaped last Wednesday and fled on foot after he hopped out of a van. A statue of Jackie Robinson was stolen from a park in Kansas last week. Only his feet were left behind when 2 people got away with the sculpture. It's still missing. The police are on the hunt for it. Robinson was the first black person to play in the MLB. The trial in the murder of trailblazing DJ Run DMC's Jam Master Jay began today. Prosecutors say the 2 men that killed the DJ more than 20 years ago were driven by greed and revenge. Apparently, what they say was over a failed drug deal. Both the men have pleaded not guilty in the case. A judge in South Carolina ruled today that Alec Murdaugh will not be getting a retrial over his convictions in the murders of his wife and son based on allegations of jury tampering.
I simply do not believe that the authority of our South Carolina Supreme Court requires a new trial in a very lengthy trial such as this on the strength of some fleeting and foolish comments by a publicity-influenced clerk of court.
Murdaugh's attorneys spent all day trying to convince the judge that the court clerk during his double murder trial last year, Rebecca Hill, influenced jurors to find him guilty, something she denied when she took the stand.
She made it seem like he was already guilty.
Did that affect your finding of guilty in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you interact with any juror in an attempt to influence their view of the facts in the State v. Murdaugh case?
No.
But that wasn't the only big moment in court today. The judge stormed out at one point after being told jurors in a back room were watching a live stream of the testimony, something they shouldn't be doing because they aren't allowed to discuss the case with each other. The judge made sure a bailiff remained with the jurors after that. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock joins me now. So, Sam, the judge made her ruling fairly quickly. Was this expected?
No, it was not, Aaron. The reality is they had set aside 3 days for these proceedings. And, the judge said she was going to try to hear from all the jurors, 12 of them, and Becky Hill, and then added 2 more witnesses today and still managed to do all of that in one day and come to a verdict or a ruling in this case, which, of course, as you know, is that there will not be a retrial. But what ended up happening that was so striking is that the judge really parsed this down into 2 categories. Yes, there were clearly inappropriate comments that were made by Becky Hill to some of these jurors. At least that's what they testified. But the question and really the threshold she was looking at was, does it rise to the level of prejudice that it actually affected the jurors' vote? And one of them said that it did, but then she kind of backtracked because she'd already said in a sworn affidavit that she felt pressured by the fellow jurors, not by Becky Hill. So her credibility was really in question. But just to hear from these jurors today, completely contradicting Becky Hill on all sorts of things, from what they actually said to the jurors throughout the course of these proceedings to comments that she made in her book that we later found out she would acknowledge weren't fully truthful. At least she didn't know that they were truthful, to emails that she said she didn't send, that the emails were actually submitted that she did send to filmmakers, asking them to drop video that they had obtained access to. So all sorts of stuff. And there was an exchange I wanted to really bring to your attention about when Becky was asked what it was that she was saying to these jurors when allegedly it was brought up. She said, this is a big day. It's an epic day. Why would she say something like that? Here was her response.
I usually give a little pep talk to the jurors. It's sometimes hard sitting a long time, but my usual, and I do remember saying, pay attention, it's a big day today. It was not for one side or the other.
Yeah, the judge didn't really buy that, Aaron. She said that the credibility of Becky Hill is basically non-existent, but that was not enough in this case to have a completely new trial. But it's not over yet because there, of course, could be appeals down the road.
Okay, so how are Hill and Murdaugh's teams reacting to this ruling?
Right. So the Murdaugh team says we are appealing this to the state of South Carolina. They said if the opposite were true and the judge in this case found that there should be another trial, that the state would be certainly appealing. So that was going to happen either way. As far as the Hill team is concerned, obviously they probably didn't agree with the characterization of Becky Hill, but here's what they actually said, that they agree with the judge's comments in a sense. And I'm going to pull up the exact language for you. We respect today's ruling by Justice Toll denying Alec Murdaugh's motion for a new trial. Justice Toll described Becky Hill's alleged comments at the center of Murdaugh's defense counsel's argument as fleeting, and that any interaction she had with jurors in no way influenced their collective decision on the facts of the case. But I would take that a step further and say the judge did call them fleeting, but also attention-seeking and totally inappropriate. So Becky Hill is now going to be under the spotlight even more than she already was, Aaron.
Oh, yeah, and she's also facing a separate criminal investigation. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is an ethics investigation. It relates to allegations that she misused or misappropriated public funds, misused her position, which, by the way, the clerk of court, what is that supposed to be intended for? Logistics with juries, trial exhibits, and other sorts of administrative things. Well, clearly there was potentially an extension there. She also has admitted to plagiarizing a portion of her book, which is the reason why it's no longer on store shelves right now. And in case we were wondering, she said in court today that she and a co-author made $100,000 on the sales, which is part of the defense's argument in all of this, that you were really trying to pump up the sales of your book by getting a guilty verdict. Whether that's true or not, obviously there's some pretty damning evidence that came out today.
Okay, well, Sam Brock, thank you. How far would you go to get your pet back if they were suddenly taken from you? Take a look at this. A woman in Los Angeles was seen clinging to the hood of a car earlier this month after her French bulldog Onyx was stolen as she was having lunch outside a Whole Foods on January 18th. Ali Zacharias let go of Onyx for just a moment, and that's when a woman snatched him and got in a car with 3 other people. Zacharias followed and tried to stop them from driving off, but instead found herself clinging onto the car until she was thrown off.
It was horrifying. I was at a point where I was like, this might be the end. I feel like I could die. I kind of rolled and I scraped myself, but not deeply, surface wounds. And I picked myself up and I started to whimper, feeling defeated as I watched this car drive off into the distance.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz. Liz, this is unbelievable. What's the latest on finding the suspects and getting Onyx back to his owner?
Hey, Aaron. Yeah, it's just so sad. And right now, unfortunately, there's no updates. Onyx is still missing right now. We reached out to LAPD, nothing about any suspects. And the interesting thing is this actually happened about 10 days ago, but it only is getting the attention now because yesterday this video surfaced and started going viral online showing this moment that Allie, this woman, jumped on or got on the hood of a car as this car sped off. And she even said that she had been looking for the past week trying to find anyone who could help her find her dog. And then yesterday morning, she woke up and goes online and sees the video and says, oh my gosh, that's me. Someone captured video. She didn't even know that video existed until she saw it online yesterday. Now she's getting all this attention and she's hoping that that will lead to more leads on finding Onyx, her pup. I did ask her, we spoke to her today outside the Whole Foods where it happened. And I said, what's your message to those people who stole your dog? And here's what she said.
My message to them is that we want him back. I mean, that's all. I don't have a message beyond that. I don't care about punishing you guys. I'm not looking for any revenge. I'm just looking for my dog back.
And Aaron, she is offering a $10,000 reward for anyone who can bring Onyx back safely.
And you said she is now getting all this attention, but she also was targeted by a scammer?
Yeah, that's something that's really unfortunate about all of this. There are good people with good intentions reaching out, dog lovers who are saying, we think we maybe found Onyx, maybe this is your dog, and really trying to help. But through all of this, and it's sad, there are people that are trying to take advantage of her. She said that somebody reached out to her saying, oh, I know where your dog is. You know, this is the scenario. This is what happened. I will go get Onyx, but can you Venmo me $50 for gas money? And she sort of like was so excited and just hopeful that she Venmo'd the money, only then realizing, wait a second, and then the person disappeared. She had another goose chase she went on this morning around LA with someone who falsely claimed to know where Onyx is. So it's also sad in these moments to see that happen to her as well.
Oh, wow. And according to the American Kennel Club, the French Bulldog is consistently the top dog breed stolen across the country, along with Yorkies, Labrador Retrievers, German Shepherds, Huskies. Why are French Bulldogs targeted so often?
Yeah, Aaron, this has been a really big issue here in California across the state, these French Bulldogs being targeted. In fact, the French Bulldog breed is now the most popular dog breed in America, beating out Labs. So they're a very popular dog, but they're also a rare to find dog, and they're very expensive because of that. They can range typically between $3,000 to $9,000. But sometimes it's special breeds, much more, $15,000 to $20,000 or even more than that. And so these thieves have realized that. And now these dogs have become a very lucrative target. And they're either put on the black market or in some cases then returned for that often very high, money, like, Lady Gaga, for instance, offered $500,000 for the safe return of her 2 French Bulldogs that were stolen in 2021. Aaron.
Wow. Well, if you're a French Bulldog owner after seeing this, you have to be worried. Liz Kreutz, thank you. Well, coming up, if you take your coffee with almond milk or any non-dairy option, you're going to want to hear this next story. Dunkin is facing a class action suit over the beverages. But first, you got to see this because it's really not something you see every day. In Indiana, a tractor trailer carrying zebras and camels caught on fire along the highway. Thankfully, first responders were not horsing around and quickly came to the rescue, leading the animals off the smoke-filled trailer. None of the furry friends were injured, and they even got to munch on some grass before being picked up by another truck to take them to the circus. So a happy ending for them. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following. A Los Angeles judge has once again denied Cher's request to put her son into a temporary conservatorship. The singer is concerned Elijah Blue Allman could fall back to substance abuse if he continues to receive trust payments. Allman allegedly suffers from addiction and mental health issues. He was placed on involuntary hospital holds multiple times last year. The judge acknowledged Cher's concerns, but denied her request because there wasn't enough evidence that her son could not manage his affairs. A follow-up hearing has been scheduled for March 6th. A woman at a Lake Tahoe ski resort spent 15 freezing hours suspended in a gondola high above snow-covered slopes this weekend. Monica Lasso said she was too tired to ride her snowboard back down to the resort, so she took a gondola instead. That's when it stopped running, and she was left alone in the cold without a phone or light. Lasso rubbed her hands and feet to stay warm and cried for help throughout the night. She was found safe Friday morning once gondola service reopened. And the San Francisco 49ers are heading to the Super Bowl following a dramatic comeback win against the Detroit Lions on Sunday. They'll be competing against the Kansas City Chiefs, a rematch from 2020, which saw the Chiefs take home the big win. This will be San Francisco's chance to win their first title since 1994. And breaking news out of California, San Bernardino police say they've made arrests in connection to 6 bodies found in the Mojave Desert last week. We now know that 5 men have been arrested for what police believe was a dispute over marijuana. All of them are in their 20s and 30s. Officials say they are being held without bail. The bodies were discovered last week after police were called to the scene for a wellness check. Police are investigating the deaths as homicide. No details have been released yet on the victims. Well, dairy alternatives like almond milk and oat milk have become popular at coffee shops, but should you have to pay more for them? At Dunkin' Donuts, customers could pay up to $2 extra for the substitution. And now a class action lawsuit alleges that this amounts to discrimination. NBC News senior consumer investigative reporter Vicki Nguyen has more.
Laura Primo is originally from New England, so naturally she was a Dunkin' regular. But recently,
I can't touch any dairy with a 10-foot pole.
She loves her coffee with coconut milk now. But when she realized Dunkin' was charging extra for it, she felt milked for money.
It just kind of upset me. You know, my favorite coffee is messing with me.
That's why she and 9 other Dunkin' customers filed a class action lawsuit against the company last month, asking for at least $5 million in damages. The suit comes after a slew of other food class actions, those focused on misleading advertising against companies like Hershey and Kraft. Some have called those lawsuits frivolous, and they've seen limited success in court. But this suit says Dunkin' is discriminating against people with lactose intolerance or milk allergies, alleging violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
They're making a significant profit off of these customers, their customers, because of their disabilities.
Because of the law, public entities have to make reasonable modifications for people with disabilities. At first glance, lactose intolerance or milk allergies may not seem like a disability, but in 2008, Congress broadened the law, which one expert thinks now covers those types of conditions.
People who have chronic conditions, lactose intolerance or food allergies, if they are substantially limiting their ability to eat and to function day to day, then they're considered disabilities under the Act.
Companies do have a way out if they can prove making those changes would fundamentally alter the nature of their business or impose an undue burden. Dunkin' acknowledged the suit and has until March to respond. It did not reply to our request for comment.
They offer sweeteners that aren't sugar. They offer decaffeinated coffee, not only caffeine coffee. To single out the non-dairy alternative is discriminatory.
The same law firm behind the Dunkin' lawsuit also filed a separate but similar class action suit against Starbucks in 2022. Starbucks filed a motion to dismiss that is still pending. Starbucks arguing that the lawsuit moving forward would have far-reaching consequences and would force retailers to choose between no longer offering more expensive items, losing substantial revenue, or raising prices across the board.
NBC's Vicki Nguyen, thank you. Well, still to come, Team USA is getting another gold medal. And if you're thinking, wait, the Olympic Summer Games aren't until July, well, this all stems from that 2022 Russian doping controversy. Those details are next, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un supervised test firings of 2 new cruise missiles today, according to state media. The missiles are designed to be launched from submarines. This comes a day after the South Korean military said it detected North Korea firing multiple cruise missiles over waters near a major military shipyard. Dozens of French farmers took their tractors to the streets, blocking major highways to protest a range of grievances. The farmers argue they are not being paid enough, and competition from cheaper imports are hurting them. France's President Emmanuel Macron says he will make a push for more pro-farming policies at an EU summit this week. And another protest took place just at the Louvre Museum in Paris over the weekend, this one involving soup. Two climate activists splashed the iconic Mona Lisa painting with soup. They then crossed the wooden barrier meant to protect the painting from crowds. The museum told NBC News that no damage was actually done to the painting thanks to the armored glass encasing it. And Kate Middleton and the Princess of Wales was discharged from the hospital today. She spent almost 2 weeks there following an abdominal surgery. King Charles was also released from the same private hospital a little later in the day after undergoing planned medical treatment. Both members of the royal family are rearranging some of their public engagements to get some much-needed R&R at home. Well, hundreds of animal rights defenders flooded the streets of Mexico City over this weekend to protest the return of bullfighting. It resumed yesterday after Mexico's Supreme Court temporarily revoked a local ruling that had suspended bullfighting since 2022. In total, 6 bulls were fought, and all 6 were killed. Some 250,000 bulls are killed each year in bullfights across the world, according to Humane Society International. The tradition originated in Spain, which is one of just a few countries in the world where this practice still takes place. But the stage is now set in Mexico for what's expected to be a lengthy legal battle between fans and opponents of the centuries-old practice. NBC News correspondent Stephen Romo has been covering this story, and he joins me now. So, Stephen, bullfighting, when you hear about it, you think about Spain, and yet it has been around Mexico since the 16th century. Now attitudes appear to be shifting. Walk us through this case.
Yeah, attitudes for some people seem to be shifting. Most of the outcry against lifting this ban really boils down to them talking about the cultural history involved here. But we also can't ignore the money factor in all of this, Aaron. There's a national association saying that the sport brings in $400 million, that latest number coming in from 2018, and also that it employs about 80,000 people in the country. So you can't ignore all that. But the people in favor of keeping this ban in place, they are focusing, of course, on the animal cruelty behind all of this. There are accusations that the animals are even hurt outside of the arena as well. And even beyond that, there are advocates that highlight just that the sport's emphasis on violence could be problematic. In fact, the Supreme Court actually referenced that violence when they put this ban into place. It's unclear exactly why they decided to lift it, but many people wait to see what happens here.
Yeah, they have decided to lift it. What does that say about how this case could play out?
Yeah, a lot of people are asking that question. Does this mean that they are more inclined to lift it long term? It's not exactly clear right now, but we do know that Mexico's president is saying he'd consider a referendum to let people decide if they would like to keep bullfighting in Mexico City. It's unclear. We've seen from video just how strong these protesters feel about this. It's unclear which side will ultimately win out, but it's something that a lot of people are paying attention to. Again, as I mentioned, because of the economics involved, and there is a rich cultural history behind it. People trying to grapple and figure out how to bring it into this century in a way that wouldn't be cruel to the animals. There's a lot left up in the air right now.
We'll have to see how it plays out. Stephen Romo, thanks so much. It looks like the U.S. figure skating team just might get their silver medal from the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics upgraded to gold. That's because today, Russian figure skating superstar Kamila Valieva got disqualified from those Winter Games for doping, meaning Russia will now likely be stripped of its team gold medal, which is expected to be awarded to the U.S. tomorrow. Valieva was just 15 at the time when she claimed her failed drug test came game because she took her grandfather's heart medication by mistake. But here's the thing. The results came out during the Beijing Games and after Valieva had already led Russia to gold in the team competition. Today's decision comes 2 years after the 2022 Winter Olympics. And while the United States anti-doping agency welcomed the ruling, the whole thing seems to have left a bitter taste in the mouth of its chief executive, Travis Tygart. Joining me now is the CEO of the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, Travis Tygart. Travis, thank you so much for joining us. What is your reaction to this ruling, and really, why did it take so long?
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. Listen, I think justice delayed is justice denied, and this took entirely too long for our athletes finally, and athletes from Japan and Canada as well, to get their due. You know, athletes put everything on the line. This is the Super Bowl event for them that happens every 4 years. So you can only imagine what's at stake at the highest levels. And the system failed those athletes by allowing Valieva to be there to begin with. And look, we're part of that system. And we've apologized to those athletes that we've talked to because she never should have been there. The sample should have been expedited when it was collected in December before those games. The case should have been resolved before those games. She never should have shown up to compete in those games and put the world in the position it's been in for the last 2 years in limbo. Who is the rightful winner of the gold medal, the silver medal, and ultimately the bronze medal? And most importantly, allow those athletes at the time that the event finished that night or the next day at the latest, have their medal ceremony and get the spoils of victory that come along with being the best in the world. Of course, we have to be sympathetic because she is only a 15-year-old young girl at the time. Now, that's 2 years later. However, we know what has been going on in Russia really dating back to 2014 when it was exposed, the state-sponsored system that they've run. So it's also a sad day in a lot of ways because here's a young 15-year-old, now 17, I think, but who has been given a 4-year, the most severe for a first offense in sanction length that you can possibly have. And that's a sad occasion that we all should be sympathetic towards.
Yeah, and because of this, the Beijing Winter Games were the first time in Olympic history that medals were not awarded in a completed event. Here's figure skater Vincent Zhao. Take a listen.
It felt like a stain on the history of figure skating in the Olympics, and it reflects poorly on the integrity of sport.
Can that stain that he talks about there be removed with the U.S. being awarded the gold?
Unfortunately, I don't think so. I mean, those that don't live and breathe with athletes like we do, may not see everything that they go through. They have to provide whereabouts to be tested 365 days a year. They watch what they eat. They're constantly training and thinking about how do I recover. They travel to great lengths, many just to represent their country. There's not a ton of money going into Olympic athletes necessarily. They're not making the type of money NFL football players make, for example. And so, and you look at the other opportunity costs. They delay going to college. They delay having families. They delay starting careers. And they do that all to represent us here in the United States and other countries around the world. So when you, at that pinnacle moment, again, the Super Bowl that happens to them, our Olympic and Paralympic athletes every 4 years, you rob them because the system failed to prevent doping in the first place, but also failed by allowing her to participate in that event to begin with, because if it had been processed properly, she wouldn't have been there. And that's the part of the system, and those of us who live and breathe in this system on a daily basis are so frustrated by, because it undermines the confidence and the trust in the system, and it does irreparable damage to those athletes like Vincent Zhao and others who have lost their opportunity because the system simply failed them.
And as you pointed out, Kamila Valieva was just 15 years old at the time that this happened. What happens to her now?
Listen, it's hard to know. I mean, some have said this is effectively a lifetime ban while it's a 4-year sanction, and they dated it back to December 2021 when the sample was collected. So she technically, I think, will be allowed to compete in the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. There will be world championships in ISU if she qualifies, but at 19, it's a whole different ball game in figure skating, as I understand it. You know, let's hope she has the support team around her. I mean, we have, been engaged with other Russians who have left that state-sponsored doping scheme, who have come to the United States seeking refuge and, frankly, were scared for their own safety. But let's hope she has the support around her. It is there globally if she is able to tap into it to give her the support that she needs moving forward. And look, she's gotten a consequence. And of course, she deserves a consequence, for the outcome. However, there are people around her, the state to begin with, who is non-compliant with the anti-doping code, the entourage around her, and we all who watched the games saw her coach and doctor around her in the tragic scene that we all saw the night of the individual competition. So let's hope she gets the help that she needs. It's there for sure, but we got to make sure that she gets it. And that's a tough thing to do, given that she's in Russia and everything that's going on there now with the Ukraine invasion, et cetera.
Travis Tygart, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we go, one of the greatest American mysteries could be one step closer to being explained. What an exploration team is now saying about Amelia Earhart's long-lost plane. So stay tuned. 2024 is shaping up to be a big year on the path to a cleaner electric grid. Experts predict wind and solar energy will drive unprecedented growth for renewables this year and beyond. But to understand the future of clean energy, we have to go back to a time when solar panels and wind turbines were more a curiosity than a concrete idea. Here's NBC's Ellison Barber.
The path to a cleaner grid will be harnessing the power of nature in 2024.
You're going to generate the wind here, the energy here, and be able to transmit it all the way across Arizona into California as well.
Wind energy will take a big leap with the construction of the Western Hemisphere's largest wind project. Towering steel turbines will capture, then deliver wind-produced power hundreds of miles away. Meanwhile, in the North Atlantic, ocean-based wind farms are taking shape.
After a week-long journey from Portugal, components to the country's first commercial-scale offshore wind project have arrived here in New Bedford.
America's top commercial fishing port, a place that more than anywhere else in America knows what it's doing out at sea.
The pace of solar is also picking up at the federal level, from installing panels on the roof of the Pentagon to developing millions of acres of public land for solar use. The modern era of clean energy has come a long way since the dreams of Jimmy Carter.
A generation from now, this solar heater can either be a curiosity, a museum piece, an example of a road not taken, or it can be just a small part of one of the greatest and most exciting adventures.
It was a symbolic gesture back then, but Carter's 1979 solar speech was more than just a symbol. It was a vision taking root.
Harnessing the power of the sun to enrich our lives.
A blip on the energy radar entering the 1980s. Solar power was far from mainstream back then.
Molten silicon, the raw material of the solar revolution. This is the front line in the campaign to generate electricity from the sun.
Solar power has shed its price tag over the decades, from more than $100 per watt to under $1 today. And now solar projects are adding clean power to cities and towns across America.
Tonight, there are plans to build a solar farm on more than 600 acres in the Foley area
to power more than 8,000 homes. Foley's population is a little more than 22,000.
How many homes can this operation power?
So we can produce up to 180 megawatts, which is about 36,000 homes.
The future of clean energy is full of revolutionary ideas that go far beyond turbines and panels.
We're seeing a boom in residential energy. It's about batteries. It's about load management. It's about heat pumps. It's about generators and EV chargers all coming together.
And the money is pouring in. Over the next 5 years, global investment in renewable energy is set to skyrocket from $330 billion today to almost $500 billion by 2028. A green rush, once a distant idea, now fueling hope for a greener tomorrow.
That was NBC's Ellison Barber reporting. Well, now to a potential breakthrough in a decades-long mystery. The founder of a deep-sea exploration company believes he may have uncovered a major clue in the disappearance of aviator Amelia Earhart. NBC News correspondent Amelia Earhart has the story.
For almost 90 years, the mystery of what happened to trailblazing aviator Amelia Earhart has intrigued generations after she vanished flying her twin-engine aircraft in 1937. Now, one man bent on solving the mystery believes he's found a major clue. Tony Romeo believes this sonar image could show Earhart's plane, which was never recovered, at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean.
Well, you'd be hard-pressed to convince me that's anything but an aircraft, for one, and two, that it's not Amelia's aircraft.
Romeo, a pilot and former Air Force intelligence officer, sold his real estate investments to start a deep-sea exploration company and fund an expedition last year to the suspected area of the crash. In December, the team was reviewing the sonar data collected by a state-of-the-art underwater drone when something caught their eye.
I mean, it was a surreal moment.
A sonar expert telling NBC News it's too soon to say for sure that the images show a plane, let alone Earhart's, but that it's an exciting possibility worth going back to confirm. But Romeo is confident.
There's no other known crashes in the area, and certainly not of that era. And that kind of design with the tail that you see clearly in the image.
The image was taken about 100 miles from Howland Island, halfway between Australia and Hawaii. Earhart and her navigator expected to land there in July 1937 for a refueling stop on her journey around the world. Earhart and the plane never arrived. Since then, several expeditions have sought to find clues about what happened without success. Now, Romeo's team will return to the site, hopefully later this year.
So the next step is confirmation. Then there's a lot we need to know about it. And it looks like there's some damage it's been sitting there for 87 years at this point.
Hoping to find answers about the fate of a legend 16,000 feet under the sea.
I think myself that it is the greatest mystery of all time, and certainly the most enduring aviation mystery of all time.
Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
That does it for us tonight. I'm Erin McLaughlin. We'll see you tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.